Hey top designers, welcome to part 2 of the Megalo Cannon overview. Now let's get this finished. Before I roll into this episode, I'd like to mention that since part 1 went live, I've been informed that base set Scoop Up didn't actually grab back energies. So Scoop Up Cyclone is actually a lot better than I originally claimed it to be. And now back to the rest of the set. The first thing I want to cover is the appearance of anti-plasma cards. These are cards that either gain power against plasma Pokemon or are simply tuned against plasma Pokemon. I covered Silver Mirror in the first part of this review, but that's just one of 6 cards that are anti-plasma, and only one of them punishes you for running plasma Pokemon. Now I can guess that some people would be fine with the anti-plasma mechanic so soon. In fact, I don't hate it. What I dislike is the fact that Plasma has only been out for 2 sets before this in Japan, and now there are 6 anti-plasma cards released altogether, whereas we were given 2 anti-X cards, and yes, they were released 2 sets after the introduction of the X mechanic, but my argument is just sheer numbers. 2 anti-X cards compared to 6 anti-plasma? Well, that's not completely true. We have 3 anti-X cards thanks to Plasma Twinkling, which was released 4 sets after the X mechanic's introduction, but that's still half as many anti-X cards as there are anti-plasma cards. Then again, I could be looking at this the wrong way. Maybe X's became bigger than was originally intended, and they decided to monitor plasma early on. Also, most of the recently released X's have been plasma Pokemon, so for a lot of later sets, anti-plasma is effectively anti-X. Meaning that we can eventually rotate out X's and not have a heap of redundant anti-X cards hanging around while creating a mixed format. But enough rambling about anti-X versus anti-plasma. Let's actually look at the anti-plasma cards. The first anti-plasma card I want to look at is Drifblim, all because of his ability, Floaty Balloon. For every plasma Pokemon your opponent has in play, Drifblim requires 1 less colorless energy to use its attacks. And for its attack we have Derail, which for 3 colorless energy deals 70 damage and discards an energy attached to a dependent Pokemon. Now from what I've seen, this card has been talked about to death, and to be honest I can see why. 3 energy for 70 damage and a guaranteed discard is good on its own, but if your opponent has 2 plasma Pokemon in play, then any energy attachment will be enough for the attack. If they place down a 3rd, then you have decent damage output and a disruptive effect for absolutely no cost. This card, on its own, has the ability to balance the structure of a player's deck, as you don't want this guy carrying away your entire setup. The next anti-plasma card we have is Golurk, the only current anti-plasma card that penalises you for actually playing plasma cards. His attack, Justice Fist, delivers 60 damage for double colorless, but it fails if you have any plasma Pokemon in play. Now that wouldn't seem too bad if this card felt like it was overall playable, but second attack costs 2 psychic and 2 colorless, and for that you deliver 80 damage, and it isn't affected by resistance. Add this to his retreat cost of 4, and you start seeing the only good thing about Golurk is the 130 hit points on the stage 1. This card would probably be a lot more playable if it didn't have a limitation on its first attack. As it is, I don't see Golurk being a major competitor in the upcoming format. The next Pokemon tuned towards combating plasma Pokemon is Sork, with its attack, Square Kick, which delivers 10 damage for a colorless energy, but if the dependent Pokemon is a plasma Pokemon, then Sork will deal an additional 40 damage. Now I know a 1 for 50 attack isn't exactly game breaking, but it is an amazing energy to damage ratio, and can be great for setting up early game damage. All of this on a 90 hit point basic isn't too shabby either. And next we have Houndoom, with his attack Burning Claws, which for Dark Double Colorless has a base damage of 60, and if it's attacking a plasma Pokemon, that doubles to 120 and the defending Pokemon is now burned. Meaning that at the moment, any non-X plasma Pokemon is either knocked out or has to survive a coin toss to get to the next round. This in my opinion will be the most underrated of the anti-plasma cards in the set. It offers great damage potential, plus it can function against non-plasma Pokemon, but that's just my opinion. And the final anti-plasma Pokemon is Haxorus, with its attack Master Blow, which for a metal and a fighting energy simply knocks out the defending Pokemon if it's a plasma Pokemon. But Haxorus also has the attack Dragon Axe, which does 40 damage for each metal energy attached to Haxorus, for the minimal cost of a metal energy. So why am I mentioning his non-anti-plasma attack when I've not done it with every other plasma card so far? Well, that's because Haxorus is completely blend compatible, meaning that the fighting energy attached to Haxorus can also act as a second steel energy for Dragon Axe, increasing its damage output to 80. Haxorus can have the potential to stand up to non-plasma Pokemon as well as making quick work of plasma Pokemon. In short, I can see Haxorus receiving a lot of hype and maybe even becoming an early format deck, but time will tell. With that said, we've done with the anti-plasma Pokemon. I know I've only covered 5 cards here after saying there's 6, but I gave my quick opinion on Silver Mirror back in part 1, so let's see what else this set has to offer. I'm going to deliver these in set order, just to make things a bit more convenient if you want to actually follow the list as we go through. So first we have Credilli. This guy has already seen some talk due to his attack Life Explosion, which allows you to grab a stage 2 Pokemon and play it to your bench, for each energy attached to Credilli, with a minimal cost of 1 grass energy. This presents us with a pretty interesting mechanic, where we can actually recruit stage 2s without having to run the basics on stage 1s. This does raise the question though, is this method potentially faster or more consistent than using basics and stage 1s? All I can say is that this needs testing, and I won't be too surprised if somebody can make it work. Next we have Excelgor, who has the attack Revenge and Pratea, which for 1 colorless energy will deal 20 damage, and if your opponent knocked out an Escavalier last turn with damage from an attack, then you can return any energy attached to the defending Pokemon to its owner's hand. Now I know this is extremely situational, but it goes without saying that this effect is pretty interesting, and if you did get it off you'd set your opponent way behind. Shame it's so easy to play around. On the plus side, Excelgor does have a Signal Beam attack, which for Grass and Colorless does 30 damage and confuses the opposing Pokemon, but we still have Darkrai and Keldeo, so I don't think Confusion's going to be accomplishing much. Poor Excelgor. They keep giving you great effects, but no real way to use them. Next we have Electros, who's here because of his attack Crash and Burn. An attack similar to Magazone Prime's Lost Burn, but this time discarding the energy instead of sending it to the Lost Zone, and dealing 30 damage for each energy instead of 50. One thing that stays resolutely the same is the attack cost of a Lightning and a Colorless, and oddly enough Electros has the same partner as Magazone Prime for gathering energy to the field in Electric. Although the one advantage Electros has over Magazone Prime is the fact that Electric is part of Electros' evolutionary line, meaning that the deck will have more room for tech Pokemon to aid in any bad matchups the deck might face. Personally though, I can see this Electros being the same as the Gardevoir and Gallade that we have in this format, but even though there's a shared evolutionary line, the deck doesn't see much play as it's outperformed by faster and more persistent decks. Following on from Electros, we have the new Sigilyph with the ability Item Box, which allows it to hold up to 4 tool cards, meaning that Sigilyph is capable of becoming quite the toolbox. Sorry. But the ability to hold 4 tools could be quite handy. Combining the effects of tools such as Eviolite and Large Coat could be highly advantageous, especially seeing as you could feasibly attach 2 of each, and have a 130 hit point basic that buffers 40 damage from any incoming attack. As for its attack, Psychic Double Colorless for 70 doesn't exactly make it into a powerhouse. Sure, it could be up to 100 against X's if you attach a Silver Bangle, and Silver Mirror could make this Sigilyph into a counterpart for its Dragon's Exalted cousin. All in all, I look forward to seeing what people manage to pull off with the ability to use multiple tools at once. And now we come to the final Pokemon I'd like to cover from the set, Porygon Z, and his ability, Plasma Trance. An ability which allows him to move plasma energy around the board, much like Hydreigon can do with dark energies. And to be honest, this takes what I said about Dialga not being able to do the Durant thing, and basically tells me to think again. With the ability to move the energy off of Dialga and use a Max Potion, or just move the energies to a fresh Dialga and switch it in, means it can be very possible to maintain a 4-card mill against an opponent. Although the idea does seem like the speed and consistency of the original Durant mill, and also doesn't have the added bonus of twins to recover, but overall, I think this might be one deck I'd try out. Especially seeing as my first ever article on 6 prizes was Durant. Might be a chance for me to get nice and nostalgic. And with all that, I'm going to call it a day on Megalo Cannon, until I start reviewing the individual cards from the set. But I've got episodes I want to do before then, and in fact, one that's needed finishing due to being put on hiatus, because so is the set. So yeah, if you like what you've seen, don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, and we're also available on Twitter now, at FutureSightYT. FutureSight was already taken. I'll leave a link in the description, and of course feel free to put your opinions in the comment section below. I look forward to reading them. Until next time, I'm Arthur Joey. You guys are the top percent. Peace out.